From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Ken Napsel.
I'm Jen Landa.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I am once again broadcasting from my childhood bedroom, just for fun. No, I'm in Minneapolis to do some more pickup shots for the horror film I've been working on. Thanks to everybody from ForceCenter who's been so supportive of the project, and it is great to be once again back with a different lighting setup.
You know, we should, we're not going to do this, folks, but maybe we should add a Patreon goal where all of us will go to our childhood bedrooms, or at least the bedrooms of our youth, and record an episode. I can go to my parents' house. It's not the same room anymore. There'd be a lot of kittens and Jesus posters in the room, but, you know, we can do
it. We should all go there, and we should all record there. That would be fun.
It'll be beautiful. It'll be beautiful. My dad will say, I think they're leaving the movies open to more stories. This big decision that he came to at the end of Force Awakens. Hey, everybody. We're going to talk about Star Wars news today. We got some great stories to dive into. As always, we want to remind you that today's podcast is brought to you by our shop on Fourth Wall. Check out our merch store. Pick up a T-shirt and help support the show and represent ForceCenter out in the galaxy. More items on the way, including pint glasses, coffee mugs, hats, and more. I'm going to keep saying that till I do it. It's on my list. That's all I'll say. It's on my list of things to do. Head over to ForceCenter-shop.fourthwall.com or check the links in the description on YouTube. Again, that's ForceCenter-shop.fourthwall.com, and check out our Fourth Wall shop. We still have a TeePublic shop that's active there, but we'll be transitioning out of there mostly in the next weeks or so. That's our first A, the announcement of our sponsor. It's no longer the other A. It's the announcement of our sponsor. But Joseph, we have other A's.
We're just really celebrating the A in Fourth Wall.
Yeah.
Fourth Wall. That's the A now. And our next A is for asks. We are continuing to grow our Patreon. We are building towards a goal of 430 paid patrons. We're currently at 413 paid patrons, which seems to be some sort of magic number tied to fate, destiny, the Force itself, because things bounce up and down. Totally understandable. People need to come, they need to leave, they come back, all that, and we almost always end up back at 413 every time I check. But we would love to build to 430, and when we reach that magic number, we're going to release a classic episode of Star Wars Ranked, which we used to do as an audio podcast, and we'll add some exciting new visuals. I know it's a difficult time for everyone, so what we're looking for is paid patrons. We're not looking to get into any sort of like monetary level, so even if it's just like $2 a month or whatever, that is much appreciated. But again, understand it's a hard time everywhere. You can also follow us on Blue Sky for free. Maybe hidden emotional costs, but for free on Blue Sky.
Indeed. Yeah, times and stuff. I went to the donut shop, got a coffee and a donut, and nearly $10. You know, it's worth paying for sometimes, I guess.
Not just tough, but confusing. I've now gotten 2 different emails from the company that I pre-order action figures from, changing the price of the action figures that I've already pre-ordered. Last time they came down.
It does happen, right? Every once in a while. Miracles.
Because our leader did a terrible deal.
Yes.
Part of the deal is make noise and then screw up. Anyway.
Indeed. Well, we are going to dive on into the show, but first we like to catch up, talk about life adventures where Star Wars may have found us and the harsh realities of the world, including donut costs. But Jen, we start with you, with your life and Star Wars adventures.
Now that I'm realizing I don't have any Star Wars adventures. I had a child's birthday. All these protests were happening all across the country. I have friends who were going, friends who took their kids. And we certainly would have gone. But, even in an era of fascism, life has to go on for the little ones, right? It's important to keep some sort of normalcy. Although we did tell them, as we saw some people walking from the protests, what people were doing and why they were doing it. They are very, very aware, and they've made a lot of comments in front of their friends whose parents drive Teslas. That's been a real awkward situation when my 5-year-old's like, if you drive a Tesla, you like Elon Musk, and he's a bad man. I
Good.
was like, oh
Good.
my gosh. Anyways,
That's what we need is more children coming up with the marketing, because it's so direct.
there's no, it's like she's straight to the point, telling her friend, and then her poor friend is like defending their parents, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
this
no.
is just it's okay. It's all right. Anyways, so I have nothing else to report other than I went roller skating. That was it.
No,
Yeah.
that's brave. That's
Mhm.
brave. I
At
can't
our
do
age,
that.
it is brave. Let me
As
tell you.
part of a family outing, or did you just say, I need some mom time, I'm going roller skating?
I would have. That's how I spent my youth. Every 7th grade, every week I would go to the roller skating rink. But kids don't do that nowadays. And there's only one roller skating rink in Los Angeles that's still standing. Yeah, in
Oh, wow.
Glendale. Yeah, so
Wow.
we went
Yeah.
for a kid's birthday, my daughter's birthday, and it was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that was
Beautiful.
it.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah, parties, roller skating. You're doing the Lord's work there, Jen. I was in Glendale. Attended the No King's Day demonstration protest rally out there at the City Hall. A lot of fun. Like everyone saw in the pictures. And I keep saying fun, and people, I want to own the fun of it. I want to own the fun of what that felt like. It's a small step forward in a bigger picture, indeed, and we're out there for serious reasons. But the joy, the atmosphere, the vibes, it was powerful. It was fun. And as I'm sure others have seen, and I know where you were, Joseph, you probably experienced. I know you experienced the same thing of just Star Wars being the anti-fascism brand I'm proud of it. It doesn't mean that Star Trek and Lord of the Rings and any of these ones, there's no need to be fighting amongst the fandoms. But it just, I do like that this kind of has become the thing, and Andor is frighteningly timed for the moment. So I saw people carrying "We Are Gore" signs, like hashtag "We Are Gore" and all that kind of stuff. And I have friends everywhere, which I think was probably at every rally around the world. It just was, just made me proud that Star Wars can be used that way. That it is about it. Not that the other things aren't, but that it's so just so apparent what Star Wars is trying to say and always has been trying to say. So, anyways, much more to say. I put some deeper thoughts in an episode of my podcast called "Lessons from a Coward" because this was one of the first ones, first things I ever attended like this for a lot of various reasons, and I tried to talk myself out of it all the way there until I got there, and I'm glad I was there. So, Star Wars all through it.
Yeah, no, that's my big life adventure this week, and Star Wars adventure as well, as going to one of the protests slash party. We went to the one that was closest to us, which was in Los Feliz at the intersection of Vermont and Hollywood, which is an intersection that seems like it was designed by a mad god from an H.P. Lovecraft story. There's just streets coming from all angles. So it's not just four corners. It's somehow 4 and 80 at the same time. But so the intersection was packed, and then the streets were all lined, and we found a place on Vermont, pretty close to one of my favorite cocktail places, the Dresden Room from Swingers.
Oh yes,
so good, so good. Exactly what you said, Ken. There's signs. I saw a decent amount of rebellions are built on hope. Lots of snippets of Nemec's manifesto. And I do think, in terms of the Star Wars adventure of it, Star Trek deals with these same issues. Lord of the Rings deals with these same issues. But I think not only did Andor deal with it so explicitly and happen to mirror some of the things happening right now, but it's always been so blatantly like the Empire isn't, just Palpatine is a dark sorcerer, same as Sauron, but he's a dark sorcerer in charge of explicitly a fascist government with the uniforms and the policies and everything. So it has been baked in from the beginning, and Andor just really amped it up. And I think for me, there's a lot of the phrases rebellions are built on hope. Leia is a symbol of rebellion and resistance. But Nemec's manifesto is So well done, and I think kind of a balm right now. And I think that it's unnatural what they're trying to do, in every little thing that we're doing to push back against the unnatural push of fascism matters. And that to me is the spirit of the protest, because walking up there, you can be like, there's gonna be plenty of people there. Why do they need one other guy with a sign? And what am I actually trying to accomplish? You can have those moments of doubt. And I think Nemec's manifesto, just like every little thing counts, every person who shows up counts. And when we first got there, it was packed. And then people started to drift away. And then for a while, is Sarah and I and one other guy with a great sign about the only ice I like is in my horchata. It was the three of us holding down that corner. And it's like, well, I'm glad we showed up because we kept it going longer. Yeah. And in terms of the vibe, it isn't just being against something. It is this reminder that we are all part of a community, seeing so many different people from so many different walks of life, with the creativity of the signs, chatting about the problems, but also chatting about television shows and where they were going to have a drink afterwards. And the number of kids that drove by in cars. I love what you were saying, Jen. I felt like, that's a reason to be here, because all these kids seeing like, this is what America is, this community and freedom of speech, and seeing that when you're 5 years old makes such a difference. So yeah, it was a great life adventure and a great Star Wars adventure.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments, I was standing on a concrete little bench looking out, and a guy next to me, older Asian gentleman, talked to someone, and I heard him just kind of go, "Isn't this great? All these different people." And I just thought that summed it up sitting there. Yeah, so good experience. Now, I will say this: 90% of the people there knew I was an undercover cop, so I had had a fun experience trying to smile even extra hard. What was going on there? Can't help it. But yeah, no, well said, Joseph. And yeah, there you go. And for those who couldn't attend, Jen, children are good reason to focus your energies on their existence and everything. So to all of the out there who are still in the fight from many different ways, we appreciate all of you here at ForceCenter. All right, let's get into some Star Wars news, my friends. All right, let's do it. Kathleen Kennedy blesses like a pope a New Hope screening, talks future projects, and confirms Starfighter news, all from one wonderful story. The British Film Institute held a screening of an original print of A New Hope, that's Star Wars to your uncle, and to the surprise of many, Kathleen Kennedy showed up and helped introduce the screening. She talked about the film itself being considered rare and having its own kind of folklore around Lucasfilm, where some people weren't even sure where the print was. So it was fun to see her come out and talk. Fun to see her just kind of be so open about some of the stuff. But I think this brings up conversations about the so-called original versions of the original trilogy. And this, based on what Kathleen Kennedy was describing and what was shown, is one of like the first prints, but it's hard to track down. Jen, you know this maybe more than anyone doing your research or projects. George was tinkering the opening weekend. So to find what was on the screens in 77 is hard. But what is our relationship right now with this so-called original version of the original trilogy, Joseph?
Yeah, I think we'll get into a little bit of the special edition back and forth. But I think my main reaction to this now is my relationship with it is history. Like, it isn't. I find myself thinking less about which version do I prefer, and some of the stuff we're going to talk about. But for myself, I think much more about it of like, this is just history. It's getting quite a ways away now. We're almost 50 years away from this release. And there's the history of what did people actually see in 1977? What was the technology available? Hey, the parts that Lucas, was just upset about as a filmmaker, the Vaseline on the lens solution for the, land speeder, that's a part of history. The physical print that still exists is a part of history. So I think, to me, more than anything, it is, I want these preserved, and these kinds of experiences preserved as, almost like a museum piece. Still have opinions about like George changing them, which parts I like, and we'll talk about all that. But more than anything, I just think about, this is history.
I agree with that. That's a great take, the history aspect of it, because 50 years on, some of this stuff goes. Like, you lose some of this stuff. And it's not just a record of this franchise, it's a record of the time, right? And Hollywood at the time. But Jed, what's your relationship with it all?
Yeah, I think many years ago, I probably would have clung to the original is the original is the best one. It's the one I saw. It's the true form. And as I've grown up and I've grown as a Star Wars fan, I understand why George continued tinkering as an artist,
Mhm.
and how important it is. It actually holds up better for newer audiences. But I do think it is important, like you're saying, Joseph, like the art of it, the museum aspect, the historic aspect of it. It is a piece of our history, a cinematic history, and I'm so glad that the film was not destroyed or warped or
Mm.
whatever. And I know the British Film Industry, British Film Institute, they do a lot of restoration and preserving old films, and this is really, really neat. I'm surprised that George, I mean, I always had this
Mm.
fantasy that George, like, hid it somewhere in his vault so that no one could find it. So this was surprising.
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy joked, mostly I'd say joked, that she was there to legitimize the screening, but I think there was a lot of truth behind that. She said, "I'm here to make sure you don't think this is an illegal screening." One of the reasons for that is when this was announced, the screening was announced by the BFI, there was a Reddit thread where people were like, "Oh, they don't have the permission for this. Oh, what's going to happen?" And so her showing up was important. And we all know, or at least we think we know, what George feels about the prints like these and the original versions. But so, Jen, to you, I'll start with you. Do you think this appearance by Kathleen Kennedy is a sign of sort of I don't know, internal change on these versions being made available? I'm not saying they're going to re-release things. Is George so focused on the museum? He's like, you show it, whatever. Any thoughts on the future of these kind of screenings?
Now that you said that museum part, I'm wondering, could they be showing in the
Mm.
museum a little clip of it?
Mm.
The original version. That would be really fun. I think that it was really a smart decision. I think she's getting ahead of the narrative.
Hmm.
It's contained to Reddit, but I'm sure there would have been many a think pieces about Kathleen Kennedy going against George Lucas's wishes. What is she doing? Or that, like, Lucasfilm doesn't have any control, somehow this got out, this was leaked, yeah,
Mm.
whatever, people are going to speculate. So it's really good, and
Yeah.
I'm sure she made a phone call, I imagine, right? Don't you think that she would have called George and been like, listen, we're going to do a special screening? I don't think it's going to
George.
be widely available, but
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, it's hard to get this stuff done. We've all been involved in screenings or events. There was an event in my hometown at the Central Coast Film Society a couple years ago, and I was a guest at, and they were showing New Hope, and it was a special edition version. But the hoops they had to go to, and I don't say that negatively towards Lucasfilm, but it was not just a simple process of we're going to show it. Like they had a lot of
Oh no.
stuff, some money had exchanged. Like it was a thing. So I can only imagine going forward if they're going to try to show another version, it'd be even more difficult. But I don't know, Joseph. It just her showing up there not only was cool, just to kind of this joke about I'm here to legitimize it. The Queen has tapped you on the shoulder and you're okay. Kind of meant something to me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think there's layers to why she and Lucasfilm would want to legitimize it. It isn't like, hey, BFI wants to show the 2006 DVD or a
Right.
laser disc or whatever. It's not
Right.
the like we want to show the original. It's like it's the print. It's the
Mhm.
Yeah.
actual physical media. I think there's
Mhm.
also we're going to talk more about some of her quotes about starting all conversations with new Star Wars storytellers by talking about A New
Hmm.
Hope. But I think there's probably something when some of the talk around Star Wars is that it's gotten too big and too unwieldy to be like, let's look at this actual physical print from 1977 on a film that is held together by duct tape
Yeah.
and dreams. Like
Yeah.
it's an amazing accomplishment, but it's got rough edges. That the Vaseline,
Mm.
we got to keep the shot where the stormtrooper hits their head
Hmm.
because we don't have any other footage. It was really boring when the Tusken Raider only did that once. We found a way to rock it back like that. Every
Mm.
other Star Wars film, I think, has less rough edges.
Yeah.
This film that changed everything is full of rough edges, things that would not pass nowadays. You would not keep that shot of the stormtrooper. You would find a way hitting his head. So I think showing this particular film in this particular print that's like, look at what it was before it became too complicated, when it was just a dream or allegedly too complicated.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what she wanted to advocate for.
Yeah.
Is let's focus on this film.
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility that George might be lightening up. One is because he is working on a museum, and maybe he's like, yeah, it is history, and I'm not going to say don't show this print that you found from actually 1977. And I also just think that the debate has cooled down, and showing it doesn't feel as much like this one's better. We'll talk about some of that, but I just feel like there must be so many people who just grew up with the special editions, and it's not as I think it's probably more of a curiosity at this point than we got to watch the good version, because I think people younger than, I don't know, 30 just grew up mostly with the special edition.
Yeah, and I think Kathleen Kennedy has some comment there. I didn't pull that one, but of just like the hey, we're seeing it as it was seen in 77. I don't know what weekend you saw it. It doesn't matter. But what she says stands of like you said, it's a historical record. It's like going in the desert and finding an historical record of all the people who've been here before, with a geologist or archaeologist. So I love the angle you're bringing up here of just it is beyond just what version it is, how it was viewed, how it was seen, and how it grew. And this is the starting point that cannot be denied. So. Yeah, I put the line in there, right? We all think we know what George feels on it, and we'll talk about a George quote here in a second. But Jen, you've done a lot of studying on that man and put it into many great projects, many here in ForceCenter. I could see him relenting. Yeah.
Yeah, seeing him speak not that long ago at the screening, Empire Strikes Back screening, he has gotten just, I think, funnier as he's gotten older, looser, just more like happy to talk about memories and his work and reflecting. And I don't know, I think that you're right. I think that he could soften and be like, yeah, all right, it's a bit of film history. And I think that the majority of people have kind of moved on from the discussion of like which one's better, although there are still some people, which we'll get into, who cling to purists or whatever. But yeah, I think I could see him letting go for historical purposes to teach the youth.
And for no other reason than to say, look what I had. Do you see why I wanted to fix it now?
Yeah, I can see that too.
Man, because that could be the other way around. Like, yeah, people who've grown up with the special editions, like, where's Biggs?
Yeah. No context. On all that, George Lucas said back in 2004, "I'm sorry you saw a half-completed film and fell in love with it, but I want it to be the way I want it to be." This is, we're heading towards the DVD release around this time. You said 2006, Joseph? The Blu-ray?
2004 was the DVD release for the first time, and then 2006 was a special edition that had the special edition on DVD, and then it had a bonus DVD that was the unaltered films, but at a real low quality.
Right.
It was a transfer of the mid-90s laser discs. So they weren't great quality in 2006, and they're really not great quality now on big modern televisions.
It's like a step away from having a commercial break in it from we recorded this on TV. My question this here gets into what both of you touched upon, and I'm not here to disagree with both of you. I just, you weren't in a shouting match in a bar 2 weeks ago that began with a special edition conversation. But why do the special editions continue to be a hot button issue for some fans? And yes, I'm mostly looking at Generation X. Joseph,
oh my gosh.
Jen.
I'm sorry. I am sorry. If you're still stuck in that, you are stuck in the past. It reminds me of like Al Bundy reliving like his glory days of football. Like, come on. We have moved so far beyond that. And like you put the oh my gosh. It is already a tough sell getting younger people to appreciate A New Hope. It is,
Yeah.
they can find bits and pieces, but you put on, as I experienced this, you put on Phantom Menace, and it is like, whoa, this is Star Wars. Like, I just think we have to recognize that it there's the film history aspect of it, and there's like, what do I want to see? And I was really anti special edition. I was so mad in the movie theater, but I was also a teenager, and I've grown up from being a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going on a rant. I'm going
No.
on a rant. I did
Rant.
not get much sleep, and I'm studying, and I'm tired. And I think if you're stuck in the past, get over it.
Yeah, I know. You need to do a TikTok series of roller skate rants where you're roller skating in a circle, ranting.
Yes.
Wait, that is good stuff.
That's a great
All
idea.
right. All right, that's good. Shoot.
Grow up,
Okay.
she says,
Yeah.
racing all on.
As I'm roller
Yeah.
skating with my
Subscribe,
action
yeah.
figure. I mean, like, who am I to say? I love toys. I still am a kid. I'm a kidult or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Kidult.
this is different.
Well, there you go. Roller Skate Mom has launched today on TikTok. Follow it now. No, look, I bring it up. I just had this real nasty thing in my life 2 weeks ago at a nerd bar, and it started with this. And it is certainly not everyone. The conversations are less. And I've had those other conversations where a younger generation fan in front of me is like, "Hey, original trilogy, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know." You know, they have that thought. And we at ForceCenter here have always tried to move towards the next generation or the next perspective and celebrate points. And we have I get a little salty on Legends sometimes still. It all happens. And I think that's the thing. It's a conscious choice. And even these folks at this bar, the arguments were 30 years old. The points that they were bringing up were 30 years old. And it just becomes tiresome. And nowadays, if I run into someone of a certain age who says, well, I only watch the original versions. Like, number one, you aren't watching even those. Like, what version are you watching? You're not watching this print. If you had this print in your back pocket, different conversation. And two, it's just like, I got to be honest, I just don't trust you. I just don't trust you. Joseph, bring some peace to this conversation.
I think it is a multifaceted issue. Yes. Well, so to go to George's quote, I'm sorry you saw half a completed film and fell in love with it, but I want it to be the way I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
That is a whole issue onto itself of the tension in art of who owns it, the creator or the audience.
Yeah.
Potentially separate from that more like philosophical idea is just which do you prefer? Does it bum you out every time that the Ewoks don't have their yub nub,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of these discussions to me are kind of, they're all tangled up in, are we talking about, I truly prefer, the Empire Strikes Back where we don't see the Wampa chewing on the thing. Are we talking about a strong philosophical opinion that once the art is made, it's frozen and it now belongs to the audience?
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about just nostalgia? You just want it to be the way it was when you were a child, period. I think there are a lot of different reasons that people can be very hot button about it. For myself, I really understand an artist makes something, the audience falls in love with it. But to me, while the artist is still living, it's theirs. And if they want to tweak it, even if they want to make a change that I don't agree with, I'm going to side with the artist. Right now, working on this film, man, if you ever want to try to see Lucas's side, spend a lot of your time and money making something and see how the one part of it that isn't turning out the way you want just twists a knife in your gut, and if you get a chance to fix it, you're gonna fix it, and somebody's gonna go but, and you're gonna end up falling in love with the wonky version, the version that's wonky to you. And that's a like a philosophical thing that to me is very, very interesting, and I think I would happily have that conversation with people. But I think the kind of conversations that you both are talking about and experiencing feel a little bit more about less about a philosophical discussion, less about just a preference for which version is better, and maybe something that I think happens certainly happens in Gen X of a sort of in ownership of it is ours now. And no one can take it away. We just had, I think, I will say my opinion, I think Gen X has a dysfunctional relationship with our space fantasy daddy, George Lucas, where we're like, thanks, Dad. Thank you for being a great dad from when I was, 2 to 12. But now I'm angry at you and I resent you and I can do things better than you and I would like to replace you. Thanks, Dad. I hate you, Dad. I love you, Dad. Is I think the Gen X relationship with George Lucas, which is like it makes it even more complicated because it's such a specific relationship with him.
Yeah, a story written by Cameron Crowe or something, starring Matt Dillon. Yeah, and I'm not going to turn this episode into my own version of a shower conversation where I'm yelling at someone 2 weeks after I was in this argument with him, but I'm gonna a little bit. Like it's not a conversation. I bring this up to say it's not a conversation about, as someone tried to do to me that night, oh, what are you telling me you like Jedi Rocks? No, I prefer Lap D9, but I also prefer the victory celebration. We've had fun debating that here in Subjective Wars.
Yeah.
I think we broke Jen's heart or mind about saying we like victory celebration. That is part of the fun that we have out of those. Some things are better, some things are worse. Do I like even the Jabba deleted scene years after wanting to see it? Han, my boy. Nah, it didn't work for me. But that's not the conversation I'm having. And the same person said, I don't like all the new stuff because it's just nostalgia bait for all fans like you. But in the same breath was saying, and I only want the version of Star Wars I saw in 1983. And I'm never moving on from it. And it's and I try to bring, I really agree with some of the artists' conversation. Sometimes artists will change things, or that maybe you don't like, or it's a remastered version of this song, and you're like, I don't know, I like the original version. There's that kind of stuff all the time. I think I change my jokes every time I'm on stage, right? Just because I want to try it a little different way. But at the end of the day, my space daddy, George, like I feel his pain on that. And I think if in the same situation, new technology around you, and you're just like, God, the only problem is I was too early on this thing. Like we all helped build this world we're in now in the studio system and making movies and making blockbusters, but it was kind of too early. Let's go back and have fun and try this. But George being George, it comes off a little bit as, no, it's this way or not. And I understand how that rubs up against folks, but I just want to get to the place where all of it exists and we can enjoy all of it, including stuff like this for the history. But anyways.
Yeah, and I think I really support, even though I don't like all the changes of Special Edition, I support his right to say these are the official versions. I would like them on Disney Plus.
Right.
I also think both versions should be available, and it's been long enough now that I think, for the sake of history, I think Lucasfilm should spend the money on whatever restoration they need to do to make sure going into the future there are really nice versions of the originals, while still saying the special edition it should always be put first because that's Lucas's version.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Gen X is that, we a lot of us, myself included, tied our identities to our fandoms. And it got us in a lot of not in trouble, but we were picked on. We might have been bullied. We might have been ostracized. And so you develop this kind of chip on your shoulder. And so now what happens is that Star Wars has become so prevalent and quote unquote mainstream. A lot of these people that were picked on, they now feel kind of angry that it is like at Target or wherever, these big box stores, or you can order merch off of Amazon, when they had to go to their comic book shop to go get it, and people used to make fun of them for going there. You know what I mean? And so it's like it's this weird thing where, like, now to be contrarians, they have to take this stance where it's like, oh yeah, I was there in the original time, therefore I am better than you, who now are becoming like part of this mainstream commercial sellout stuff. I think it's really complicated. And I really do think it's a psychological thing, and it's not just with Star Wars. It's with a lot of
Yeah.
different things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's also permeating to the younger generations as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Red Letter Media was so popular, is because a lot of people were like, yeah, I'm not the nerd that you think I am. I actually have a controversial opinion about this thing. It's like, come on, we're all dorks. Like, let's just embrace it.
I've misunderstood who the main character is in Phantom Menace and based an entire video series around that misinterpretation of the film. No, I really,
pretty tough.
I really agree with you. Happy to have a JetX conversation because we're all part of it. And we all there's things here and there, and especially as you get older, you have a little bit of more like, well, I remember when I saw the gin blossoms. That yeah, we all have that. But it is about a lot of the folks that I talk to. They are very out of touch in this way, and I'm not saying that even as an insult. Just like they got their own lives and they dip into the Star Wars world. We are dealing with it weekly. So would they look into the face of your daughter, Jed, and now say, oh, I'm so sorry to inform you that movie sucks? Would they say it with the power that they said in 1999? I still go to my buddy Adam Witt's words of the first chance our generation had. We tried to destroy Star Wars for the generation behind us. That was 97, 99. I go to that often. My friend Adam of the Movie Guys said that at a bar to me one night. And that's where a lot of this conversation lies for me, is that just you're stuck in the past, man. That's why we make the jokes. Anytime someone says, in my day it was just called Star Wars. Yeah, your day's done. Your day's done. Either join us here now or sit there in your 72 Plymouth getting, anyways, now I'm yelling.
It is true that often on the podcast, I call it A New Hope, of course, originally Star Wars, because otherwise we will get a comment from somebody correcting us after almost, a decade of broadcasting. Like, yeah, we know.
You look at the gray in this beard and you know they used to just call it Star Wars. Yeah, And Viggo Mortensen broke his toe when he kicked that helmet.
Yeah. Lucasfilm will happily correct you on anything. Like, you have to write out the whole thing, Star Wars, A New Hope, episode, whatever. Like, they have, standards. So if I were to go and be like, oh, Star Wars, they'd be like,
oh God, yeah.
Follow it up. Yeah.
I had to do a project for fandom that was related to Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. I got the creative brief from Disney Lucasfilm. Holy moly. It is down to what is italicized, obviously, which ties beyond just Lucasfilm, but the spacing, the font size, it's controlled. They know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Woo.
Oh yeah.
Anyways.
I italicize it all the time.
All right. I'm going to keep the conversation going. People in this screening were said to applaud, including director Edgar Wright, who I do enjoy his work. People in the screen were said to applaud at Han shooting first. Joseph, I ask you why. Not even negatively. I just ask why.
I think it is also multifaceted. I think, it became the rallying point, right? Han shot first, T-shirts, everything. It kind of became the one rallying point for the entire special edition umbrage. That said, I also think that there is a true. I'll give a big bend for the doubt to everybody who applauded. I would have applauded too.
Yeah,
because I do think, because my opinion is that it is artistically one of the most awkward moments. There's the whole discussion of Lucas wanted to have children not see Han as a killer versus but he's at the beginning of a moral journey. But I was never bothered because, like, seems like self-defense. Greedo's saying, like, hey, I'm going to shoot you now. Yeah. There's all that, but then there's just the filmmaking, the storytelling. It is in the original version, it is one of the most best directed moments in George Lucas's directing career. It is so elegant. Harrison Ford, Han Solo just dabbing his finger on the wall for no reason to draw Greedo's big bulbous space eyes so he doesn't see the movement, how casual it is, the fact that it is under the table, it's self-defense, but it's under the table, and it's just a beautiful moment. And as much as I like McClunky and find it really entertaining and funny, the last change from George Lucas, I don't think he massaged that thing 3 to 4 times, right? the first greeter shot first, and Han did the weird like I'm at a rave flash animated dance movement
Yeah.
in '97,
Yeah.
and then it had a little bit better. They shoot at the same time, and I don't even know how many times in total he's adjusted it.
Yeah.
But in my opinion time, they've never worked just as a bit of visual storytelling. It's
Yeah.
just like, George, I know you want to fix it. You just don't have the film for it. You just don't have the frames for it.
Yeah.
It's beyond the question of should he have changed it, beyond the question of Han's moral arc. It just is an awkward piece of visual storytelling.
Yeah.
In all of the special editions, in a beautiful piece of visual storytelling
Yes.
in the original.
That is a great summary of it, because I really agree with you, and that goes back to even what I was saying of like when someone's like, "Oh, do you like blank?" and insert special different edition reference. It's like, no, that doesn't necessarily need to have happened in my brain. You know, like I love Cloud City. I love the additional Wampa. It took me 30, 40 years to get okay with, well, it'll be 30 years, okay with the Sarlacc pit having, Feed Me Seymour coming out of it. Like, it took me a bit. Like, this isn't about that. And I'm with you. I would have laughed at the applause, much like I was aghast at the applause for Anakin killing the younglings at the Revenge of the Sith screening I was at with Billy Patterson. Like, I would have. It's memeable. I have the shirt. It doesn't fit me anymore. It's tattered, but I have the Han shot first shirt, the same one that George wore. Said, "Oh, you want to troll me? I'll troll you." But yeah, I think over the years, it is how that argument is said, or used, I should say, in a conversation about special editions, is kind of how I judge the conversation's going to go, right? Because I think a lot of it over time, too, is just the misunderstanding of who Han even was. You're right, it is the beginning of this moral journey, and we didn't have more storytelling, but as the storytelling grows, Han wasn't a villain, right? And so a lot of people, or he is a badass, but you know what I mean? Like, sort of, I think there's a lot of like, Han shot first means he's a stone cold killer because I like him like that. Versus kind of what you're describing, Joseph, which was self-defense, no matter how you shot it. And it's just awkward. But Jen, thoughts on this? And would you have applauded, laughed, or booed?
No, I would have laughed, maybe even like, yay, like that. Because even though I have embraced the special editions, the Blu-ray, whatever, there are certain things that, I'm like, all right, like this. And like you're saying, Joseph, this is awkward. It just, it's kind of silly. But in my research, and that we all know, fatherhood changed George Lucas big time. And there is something about when you were from his generation, and even like our generation a little bit, like people grew up on these gunslinging Westerns. That was very, very common. But nowadays, a lot of kids aren't getting that, or even, back, I don't know, in the 90s or whatever, they're not getting that as much. And so it could be seen as a little bit too violent or too like villain origin story, or and not what he wanted, the message that he wanted to give to people, and I think specifically to 12-year-olds. So I understand why he wanted to change it. But it's just kind of funny.
I think that's just such a great point too, and with his well documented sort of frustration of, I intended to make this hopeful story about making good choices, and you all want to be Darth Vader and Boba Fett and mess people up.
Exactly.
You think Luke's whining, you think Han's real cool, and like,
Yeah.
I understand where Lucas is coming from with his intent.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I would have applauded, because it's just the moment is
to me
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, nothing here is to suggest I wouldn't have fun at something like this, to be clear. I thought it was just a fun little note in the article that even Edgar Wright clap. Speaking about A New Hope itself, aka Star Wars, Kathleen Kennedy said, "I would say this is the film everyone starts with when we start talking about story, George's intent, and what it is we're trying to build off of." So, Joseph, what does that mean to us?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's... I think that Star Wars, now called A New Hope, I think it's amazing how much it's got everything that Star Wars would become. Like, obviously, everything starting with Empire, it gets way deeper and more complicated, and all these things. But so much of what still animates Star Wars today, and in particular, the huge hit of Andor, is in this film. The some of the core themes of Star Wars, family, the struggle between the old and new, sort of
Mm,
mythologically and generationally, and the longing for nostalgia and the danger of nostalgia, the combination of the myth and the whiz bang adventure, the fact that it did get renamed by Lucas A New Hope,
mm,
Mhm.
really emphasizes the core theme in Star Wars about hope versus fear, and how are you going to approach things, and how is it going to change you. The fact that it's a found family, and it took all three of them, and it's a democratic story because Han turned around, and the special kid with the wizard powers couldn't have done a damn thing unless his working class coded scoundrel buddy, who should just be looking out for himself,
mm,
chooses to become a part of the fight.
mm,
There's so much of the heart of it, and the themes of it, and the major areas to explore, from Jedi scoundrels politics, is all baked in here. So I understand why Kathleen Kennedy would say, watch this. It's a DNA sample of everywhere we could go from Star Wars. And also, like I said, it's held together by duct tape and hope. This is
mm,
a daring indie film. It might be, the pillar of a billion-dollar industry that everybody has an opinion on. But in 1977, when it was just this film print, it was a daring, weird film born out of this one man's weird passion to see all of these different ideas mashed together and mixed up in this new and unique way. And
mm.
that's the spirit we need to get back to.
Yeah, well said. I look at it as the center of all emotional canon in the franchise, and it's not that. And we're going to talk about genre bending and where you can go, and it's not that you can't break up the format, or the Skywalker has to be the center of every story. It isn't that. It is what it is saying, right? It is what
Hmm.
this film is about, beyond even just the 12-year-old, driving point of this. We're speaking to that generation, just everything that's there, including the politics, and it's subtle in this, as we know, but it's also very present, and it's also in every frame of what's going on. And I like that she said this. That this is kind of uh, Star Wars storytelling 101, which is just a jumping off point. It's you
Hmm.
got to learn these three chords before you write this song. You got to have this down, or at least understand what it's about. And I still really enjoy that. That's the center of the Star Wars universe, Jen, for storytelling.
That's exactly it. I think of it as like an entry point. So rather than making it about like, having to know all this canon and knowing the backstory or whatever, like you can come into Star Wars. No, majority of the audiences had no idea who these characters were. And yet it was very clear that there was a rich, full galaxy. There were more things that people could learn about, were wanting to learn about. What is the Clone Wars, right? All these things. And that really delights people. And I think about when the film was first released in 1977, and when you hear people talk about it who were actually able to experience it, they always talk about like the
Mhm.
awe
Hmm.
of it. They couldn't believe that they pulled this off, and also just the delight. And I really think that's why Kathleen Kennedy is who she is. She has worked on countless films that had that awe and delight
Hmm.
and that magic, right? And I think that that's what Star Wars is, and that's what they're trying to accomplish, which is not an easy feat
No,
every time.
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. She also brought up Andor and credited the show with, quote, expanding genres when it comes to telling Star Wars stories. She said, I really think that now we're in a position where it's broadened the possibility of stories and filmmakers we can bring in to tell stories that mean something to them. It doesn't necessarily have to connect to every little thing that's been done in Star Wars. It can actually be a standalone story that then builds into many other stories. So very clearly, Joseph's saying Dave is not going to get promoted, right? Is that no?
uh, I look forward to the Star Wars Succession show.
No. No. All right. I said I'll bite. What does that mean, Jen? What does that mean to you about Andor and what it did? What other shows have done? To be clear, we'll stand up for the other shows that we love here too. It's not just about Andor,
Hmm.
but she's not wrong in the sense of how it's being viewed. And I like her line, Jen, about other filmmakers are bringing to tell stories. What do you think there?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to think of Andor as a risk, but it kind of is a risk, right? And exploring it and not having as much of the space battles and things like that, or lightsabers or Jedi, all the things that we've talked about. It is different, and it did well, very well critically. We are going to talk about how it did well with audiences. It's prestige television, which is very new for Star Wars. And and so I think that's the juice that they kind of need to keep going and keep pushing the envelope. I think the Acolyte was a big risk, and unfortunately it didn't pay off, but Andor showed that you can take risks and you can be successful. The audience is wanting different types of Star Wars stories.
Yeah, and I'll say, you know, Andor, in terms of it being a risk, you know, for the money it has made, which is much made about that, and we'll see if it gets the awards. We'll talk in our second story about the numbers and everything. But I go back to those first 2 episodes of Andor. By the third episode, I think you're off and running. But the first 2 episodes of Andor, I think, were a risk because they were kind of quiet. I'm not going to say boring because I was gripped, but I know some people are like, I didn't finish it. I didn't get past episode 2, you know, a couple years ago. Now I think they are. I think that was a risk because it just was like, oh, we're going to tell a different kind of Star Wars story, or we're going to start it in a different way, even though it's a similar story in terms of the tenets of Star Wars and the themes and everything. But yeah, I think that was a risk. I think it was a risk. I don't know. Joseph, what does all that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it feels like these are carefully chosen words by a master communicator.
Yeah.
I feel like it is sort of a pushing back against some of the criticisms of Star Wars, that it has become too connected to its own past, and that Lucasfilm won't let anybody experiment. It's so designed to address those and celebrate the win that was Andor. But also I feel like it connects to things that she's been saying for a long time. I believe it's the Last Jedi documentary, where she talks about, we are always looking for what story do people want to tell. What makes the first Star Wars film special is George. It's one person. It's the weird story that this weird guy wanted to tell because of his specific life. Nobody else, other people made space fantasy films. Nobody else would have made Star Wars. And he got all these people to help him make it, is wonderful as it turned out. But it came from his passion of like, yeah, I do want to slap together mythology and Saturday afternoon serials. I think it's a great idea. And I think Kathleen Kennedy has been clear often about that is what we are looking for in the meetings. And I think that's why something like Acolyte got the green light, even if it didn't pay off ultimately for Lucasfilm. It's a specific vision that clearly meant a lot to Leslie Headland and was unique.
Yeah.
I also feel like this this quote is a little bit of like, hey, if there are other filmmakers out there like Tony Gilroy who would normally maybe kind of look down their nose at Star Wars, look at what Tony did.
Yeah.
You can stop looking down your nose. We're not going to yell at you about canon.
Yes.
Or if we do, don't worry about it.
Or it's not the trap that you might think it is from the outside.
It's not the trap. Yeah. And when she says it can actually be a standalone story that then builds into many, many other stories, that was really interesting to me, because think about, Andor had to zig and zag around some canon.
Yes.
A decent amount of Rogue One. Other than that, like, okay, we got to finesse Mothma's speech. Yeah. Other than a little bit of zigzagging around canon, it left us with much more new canon, right? That's what we're talking about. Is like, does Dedra ever get out of prison? Whatever happens with Bix and her child with Cassian, all these things, wanting more stories with Vel and with Clea and flashbacks to Luthen. Like, what we ended up with Andor is not as many discussions of, did it fit in? Did it disrupt anything that exists? And more conversations about, look at all these new places we could go as a result of Andor.
I still think Skeleton Crew is even, a greater example of what she is talking about too, about what you could do. I mean, it's a Saturday morning pirate show that doesn't run up against a lot of other things in Star Wars. Yeah, no, yeah,
so good.
Yeah, I'm about ready to begin a Skeleton Crew watch. But yeah, and some of the realities too of just other folks, other people who aren't as steeped in Star Wars, who might be afraid of it, who might just, like you said, it's the reality, look down on it. And Tony had that vibe. I do want to shout out Goose from Tread of the Force. I was watching Star Wars Explains roundtable interview they did up at Lucasfilm with Tony Gilroy, and Goose did bring this up about, hey, in season 1 you seem to be less of a Star Wars fan. The attitude or the vibe seemed to have changed, and Tony had a great response where he just kind of was like, I'm busy, man. Like, I don't watch Star Wars. And then he settles on, he goes, I've made 26 hours of Star Wars. What do you got? Like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I just different life. But I think that's a reality too, that there's going to be people like him who now feel they can get into the world. All right. Last bite of news. Kathleen Kennedy brought up Star Wars Starfighter and said it's going to be pretty big, and confirmed that it starts shooting in London this September. Jen, quick thoughts on this breaking news confirmation. We're going to set.
We're going to set. The sets are being built as we speak. Creatures are being assembled. So 2027, is that the release for Starfighter? Is that it?
Yeah.
Woo! I mean, yeah. Okay. I feel like it's a tight timeline, but I think that things work much faster than back in the day with films. But I'm just thinking, like, for visual effects and all that stuff, and things are constantly changing in our world, so it will be interesting to see. But it sounds like they've got a plan. They are ready to go.
Yeah, and it's fun. And she was talking about they're going through the casting right now. We talked about the Mia Goth story last week, and more to come there. So we got Mandalorian Grogu first, of course. We are really hopeful for Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy and Daisy Ridley putting forth a new Rey story or Rey-centered story. But Joseph, what do you think about this confirmation here?
Yeah, I'm excited that the buzz is already built, and I think they're going to need to keep it kind of on a simmer and really put their backs behind Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm really looking forward to an official description from Lucasfilm of just the one sentence description of what the film is. I'm really curious to see how much is it going to be what she was just talking about. Of we want to have filmmakers make their own unique vision that's kind of really fresh and new. And if it's just going to be, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Star Wars in theaters with something that celebrates that spirit of that original 1977 film by being its own unique thing, or if it's going to be like, this is a film that is sort of designed to be a 50th anniversary film. I really look forward to hearing the log line and kind of seeing what exactly is this film.
What is it? Yeah, I'm just excited in a general sense. Like we said last week, I think some of those casting stories, it's nostalgic in a good way to even 10, 11 years ago when we were waiting for what Force Awakens would become and what the reveals would be. So there you go. We'll keep you updated on that. A lot of good stuff in this one little tiny Kathleen Kennedy appearance at a screening. Good stuff. But the other story we're going to get to right now is Andor hits the toppermost of the poppermost. The numbers are in. While it's always hard to figure out what streaming numbers actually are, what they mean, Nielsen, you remember them. You get the box, you'd plug in what you'd watch, and, that's how you knew Cheers was popular. Kids, remember those? No? Okay. Nielsen released the watch time numbers for Andor in the final week of the show's original run. On a list of the top shows and movies, Andor registered 931 million watch minutes, just finishing ahead of Bluey's 922 million minutes. This, of course, is the watch time of the entire series, not just the finale, not just the final episodes. Series watch numbers continue to grow each week throughout the 4 weeks that Andor Season 2 is out. Rogue One even moved in the top 10 for just movies on that list. It's clear the show's a success with fans and critics, and maybe on July 15th with the Emmy voters, we'll see who actually gets the nominations. But Jen, as a Star Wars fan, what do those numbers mean to you?
It legitimizes our obsession with Star Wars. Say, see, this show is popular. I think it's also important to be able to get more Star Wars series because, they use those numbers, whether it's with their shareholders or Bob Iger or whoever, they want to show them to. And it's like we've talked about, Star Wars has to be a hit because if it's so, it will be deemed a failure. And it stinks that that's kind of the bar that Star Wars always has to clear. But if the numbers were mid, they'd be like, well, Star Wars is dead, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, but it's pretty cool. And I think that word of mouth is going to make it continue to spread. People are going to be on summer break. They can catch up on the whole season. My husband wants to watch it, especially with everything happening. He's like, I've been seeing all these memes related to gore. What's gore? I'm like, we'll watch it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I think it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, it is the name of the game. This is a business. We do need those numbers. What the tragedy of the ending of Acolyte, I think it's a tragedy because I just wanted that show to continue to develop and put forth what it was trying to do. Skeleton Crew, I absolutely love it. It wasn't as watched as much, and I hope that changes at some point. And as much as we always want to make sure we're championing all the shows we love here, all the shows you out there love, I take to heart that this show, in a franchise that is 50 years on, a franchise that did have a little dip, that's an honest take on what the last couple of years have been, whether I agree with the conversations at bars or on the internet, it has taken some hits. And here we are now. This series got eyes on it. That's a good thing, and I'm happy to celebrate that as a Star Wars fan. Joseph, you?
Yeah. The streaming numbers I do kind of raise an eyebrow at because they're complicated. And what is that actually? It's like 931 million. Wow, that's a big number.
Yeah.
Minutes watched. What?
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. Anyway, in terms of what that number means, I think it's great to have confirmation that Andor isn't a sleeper hit, because that was kind of the conversation around the first season of like,
Correct.
yeah, it was really good and it was a
Correct.
critical darling, and the people who liked it really think a lot of it, but a lot of people are kind of boring and nobody really watched it ultimately. But, and why did they spend that much money on a show that nobody really watched? I'm really glad to see that conversation is going to change. Of it's not a sleeper hit. It did good in numbers, and it's going to continue to do good. I think as more people are like, what is this? I have friends everywhere sign at all of these rallies. What does that mean? Who is Nemec? Why is everybody so into this Nemec guy?
Right.
Is he one of the founding fathers I never heard of? This Nemec kid? Yeah. And I also just feel like, along with Andor, like we've been talking about with the Revenge of the Sith re-release, it just feels like Star Wars is on an upswing, where there has been a little bit of negativity in the general pop culture conversation about it, and it's on a bit of an upswing, and I think Andor has a lot to do with that, and in particular how good season 2 is.
Yeah, the Revenge of the Sith screening numbers, even Phantom Menace prior to that, these numbers. There's only one thing more embarrassing than being a man with frosted tips in 2025, and that's trying to throw a funeral for a franchise publicly that's doing these kind of numbers. This is what I take from it as well. But you're right, Joseph. The numbers are, it's hard to read. That's part of the whole thing with the strike. 2023 was, what are the numbers? What are we watching? And I want to, before I even ask this question about, my question is this, and Jen, I can pitch to you here. Will this bolster any attempts to bring more live action streaming shows to Star Wars shows to the screen? We know there's more being worked on. Gilroy keeps hinting at it, though he did say in the Star Wars Explained interview video, he's like, I keep getting in trouble for hinting at things, but I know they got things in the works. That's not a surprise. That's not a surprise. But in looking at these top 10 numbers, I do want to point out, in this age of streaming, 3 of the shows in the top 10 are Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, and The Rookie. Network television programming from a bygone age. Those are still doing big numbers. But Jen, do you think this news will give Lucasfilm, the creatives, confidence to maybe move forward with things that maybe a couple years ago they didn't have confidence in?
Yeah, I'm setting aside my streaming rant against all the tech people that made the industry believe that streaming was the key. Actually, network television was pretty damn good. I think that it's challenging. I'm sure that they have a lot of ideas. I'm sure that there's a lot of, development things and meetings and whatever. But honestly, seeing how things are playing out, with travel and like talent from overseas, like that is going to be a huge problem, not just for the entertainment industry, but for all sorts of industries. People may not want to come and film here. They may not be able to film over. I don't even know. And I'm sure that they're having lots of meetings to try and figure out how to make that work, especially because Star Wars productions, like with Starfighter, they shoot in the UK and other places. So yeah, I guess they could just stay in, what is it? It's not San Pedro. Where do they shoot the Mandalorian?
San Pedro.
Hermosa?
It was down there. No, it was Manhattan Beach area. Yeah.
Manhattan Beach. Okay,
Yeah.
so then, but then that means you can only have U.S. actors who don't look like me, because we might get pulled over. So, but you know what? Some Star Wars fans may be happy. That's another rant. I'm on one today, guys. I'm on one.
And the
I'm
Venn diagram of those people, Jen, who'd be happy with you getting pulled over, who only call it Star Wars. It's tiny. The center is tiny. It's tiny. Or maybe it's just big. Maybe it's big. Maybe it's just a big circle.
Well, actually, yeah. It's hard to know. Hard to know.
Yeah. Joseph, thoughts on this streaming?
No, well, I want to agree with Jennifer's rant that it is one of the many reasons for us to care about all the horrors going on, because they affect everything, and all reasons for corporations to not bend the knee, because it's unnecessary chaos. Anyway, in terms of Andor being successful helping other streaming shows, I think so. I think some of Andor and like Tony Gilroy's sort of ownership of it, I think they might try to take a little bit to the film world too, and see if they can get some other filmmakers. Like, it seems like I'm sure they're having conversations with Mike Flanagan, but I'm sure this is like, hey, Mike, look how everything went with Tony. But for streaming, I understand that they're going to pull back, but they have to keep putting out Star Wars television shows, or they are going to lose subscribers. The question is, how much are we going to spend? And as always, in the streaming era, what do we want out of it? Because they used to know what they wanted. The Nielsen's will tell us how many people are watching. Based on that, the car companies will give us this much money for ads.
Yeah,
we all know what we want. We want numbers and money. But with the streaming, is it about retention? Is it about subscriber growth? Is it about what do you want, Disney? It would, and with the streaming, a lot of it moving toward the ad-based tiers making more money. We might just be right back to that. To how many people are watching, therefore how much money can we get from advertisers? Anyway, I think that in this questioning time of streaming, I think that Lucasfilm is certainly discussing, we want more things like Andor. But the classic Hollywood question is, what lesson will be taken from like Andor? Does that just mean like, we want grounded and gritty? We want to really dig into real people's lives, and we want their homes to look unpleasant to live in. Like, whatever. Not that Ferrex ever looked unpleasant, but that, real, raw. However you take gritty. Is it just like, the mission is gritty, let's go make gritty? Or is the mission like more genre experimentation? Like, let's go super high fantasy. Let's have a show set in Mortis. Let's go. We learned from Andor that, like, dig in, pick your lane and do the hell out of it. Would that be the lesson? I think one of the greatest lessons would be more relevant. Don't be afraid to tie things explicitly to what people care about. And I don't mean like name and shame any one particular political person. You can, George Lucas did, but I just mean, I think that's part of the power of Andor, is it feels so relevant. It feels like it is about our lives. And I think it's a part, it's not, it is, that part isn't being discussed as much of why people love Andor, the quality of the writing, the quality of the acting, that it's grounded, that it's real, all that. But like, it could be all those things and not happen to have been so relevant. And I think, how do you capture that lightning in a bottle of feeling like this isn't just entertainment, it's speaking to me about my life and the things I'm worried about and the things I'm celebrating. I think that is the greatest lesson to learn from the success of Andor. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a tradition to take the wrong lessons from things, right? in this business and other businesses as well. I agree with all that, and yeah, we'll see. We'll see where we go at the end of the day, though. I like what you're saying too about it. It isn't just about Andor starts at a brothel, and we all like it. It is the day to day, and it's connecting out to the world. It is just simply direct. I think Andor is less subtle than any series, which is why sometimes we get grumpy about the politics in Solo is just as important and powerful. It's just delivered in a different way. But this show, maybe that's part of the lesson to learn there. All right. Final question, Jen. I pitched to you first, and maybe just to you. Should we all just watch Bluey?
Well, it's so funny because I was going to say my kids went through a big Bluey phase last year. They've watched every episode multiple times, but then before recording today, my daughter went and put on Bluey. So I was like, oh my gosh, it continues. There is something so comforting, not just for kids, but for people of all ages. There's a couple episodes that I tear up every time I watch it. The story, like I had to look at the runtime because I'm like, they tell a damn good story in like 12 minutes. Like it is amazing.
They're only like 12 minutes. So that 922 million views, 154 episodes, 12-minute episodes or so. Wow.
Yeah. There was like, I think there was like 2 episodes per 12-minute episodes per episode. They are brilliant. They're so good. It plays for the adults. It plays for the kids. Oh my gosh.
All right.
I highly recommend it.
Bluey Center launches soon.
Bluey Center.
Yeah, I think next time there's a slow news week, we should just do a Bluey Center. I'm just like, there's no Star Wars news, so we're just gonna watch an episode of Bluey. Talk about it.
Jen's got her Bluey ranked, her top 5 episodes of Bluey that Ken and Joseph must watch. We might do it. I'm sure it's going to people want it.
Oh, it's good. You guys, you'd love it. Okay.
All right. I'm still not even sure what it is, but I'll find out. I know that it's, I'll dive in. I'll take a dive in. All right. There we go. Rounding around the corner toward the end of our discussion. You said, Joseph, of a show set on Mortis. And here's what I think. I think there will be a show set on Mortis, but it will be a sitcom. And it will just be, he's the father, he's the daughter, he's the son. And I think we'll have a 22-minute sitcom.
And then what we didn't see is that they have a wacky neighbor that is also the Force God, the father, the son, the daughter, and their weird pal.
Jim J. Bullock makes a Star Wars. Yeah.
Bullock. Oh my gosh, that's a name I haven't heard in so long.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. Yeah, and hey, the show set in Mortis might be Ahsoka season 2. Ahsoka is pushing toward fantasy. And, I know we're wrapping up, but I will just say this one thing. I know a lot of the Andor praise and that can be seen as criticism of Dave Filoni. I think what is special about what Favreau and Filoni have done is that's their Star Wars. They like ongoing stories that are interconnected and generational, and have a strong sense of the space fantasy and a strong sense of let's take familiar things and play with them. Let's play with the weird toys that nobody liked when we were a kid. That is their Star Wars, and it is every bit as unique and specific to the creators as Andor is to Tony Gilroy and team.
I agree with that. Play with your action figures, kids, or adults when you're going to the stores. Play with those too. All right, I think that is about it. Any final thoughts, Jen, on streaming, Star Wars Starfighter, special editions, Lapty Neck, Ewok dancing?
You know what? I really hope this Starfighter is good. Like, it kind of feels like the cool kids are coming to our side. Maybe, and Ryan Gosling. And I don't want to say they muscled their way in here, muscling the Rey movie out of the way, but part of me kind of feels a little bit like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, bros, let's see what you got. Let's see what your Star Wars is. It better be damn good, because then I'm going to be making those videos with the red eyes, and then I'm going to get millions of dollars.
Jet, I actually think, and I think there's some truth, and Joseph, you can speak more on it, of the Rey movie, for maybe some development reasons and everything, but, that's now third tier on these list of movies. I agree with that. But Jen, I think you really stumbled onto kind of what a lot of us might be feeling but aren't aware of. Hey, who invited them to this party? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, as someone who danced in sports worlds and Star Wars worlds and everything, yeah. Let's see. Not in a gatekeeper way. I'm not going to ask them a list of 10 favorite characters and you must know all their names. But I actually think, Jen, you really stumbled onto a truth there. That, hey, wait a minute. Why is the good-looking dude here? It's like when a really hot dude gets up on stage to do stand-up, like some really good-looking people, but mostly the men. It's like, what do you got to complain about? What do you got to complain about?
Right? Exactly. Oh, sorry. Oh, man. Yeah.
Joseph, the cool kids are here. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm so trying to contain myself before launching into another mini episode of ForceCenter. Ryan Gosling is a nerd with the face of a Greek god.
Of an angel.
Yeah.
Are you an angel?
Ryan Gosling is so funny and so charming, and I got no problem. If we want to go back to Gen X stereotypes of nerds, if we're all in a locker, he's welcome in here with us.
Yes, I agree.
I do think that natural development stuff, but I think Sean Levy. I always get it wrong. I apologize. Levy. Yeah. I think Sean Levy is a good director and a savvy businessman. I think he knows show business, and I think he businessed the hell out of show business to make this happen. And kudos to him. I'm not criticizing him, but I think he played the game and he got the movie he wanted to do on the 50th anniversary. And I hope that didn't bump New Jedi Order. And it's just that, it's taking its time with development and we got to be cautious. But again, I want to be really clear. I'm not criticizing him. That's the game. It's show business, but the business is really apparent to me. He businessed his way into this, and now I'm sure he'll do a great job with the show, and I'm excited to see it. But I am also aware of it's show business, and I saw the business.
Yeah, the business. Yep. And look, taking it back to even the beginning, we don't want to be the people who are upset that there's more people at Comic-Con because we want Comic-Con to go. But Jed, what it's an ongoing struggle. It's a choice to be better every day. So we'll see what the little pretty boy can bring to Star Wars.
I know. Listen. I'm in therapy. We're working out those old wounds. It's an ongoing struggle.
Yeah,
you might see
get
me
them
at
roller
the bar,
skates.
arguing with people.
Love it. All right. Well, there you go. That's this edition.
Watch Bluey.
Watch Bluey. We'll get more on Bluey. Hey, folks, thanks for listening, watching today. Thanks to those who've been jumping on the YouTube train as our numbers continue to grow slowly but steadily. We appreciate that. You can find us on social media at ForceCenter Pod. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast in case your uncle is on there and wants to find us. Podcast is available on Acast, iHeartRadio, and a lot of other places. Just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. There probably will always be there, but our emphasis will start to become on fourth wall as we said up top. Check out that link in the YouTube description. You can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. From there, get into our Discord and discuss mostly happily. There's some tense times in the Discord occasionally. I think I have to get in there, roll up my sleeves a little bit more. Jen, what do you think? Get in there. But it's a really wonderful, actually warm place to discuss Star Wars. I joke. Follow me at Catnapsuck or my website, catnapsuck.com. My Patreon page has exclusive stuff. My music shows, I just did a tribute to Sly Stone and Brian Wilson on my show, Pop Rockin' Radio. Rest in peace to those musical geniuses. And I got updates on comedy shows and all that good stuff. Jen, where can they find you and your roller skate rants?
That's right, my roller skating rants. You can find me on most of the social media sites at Jennifer Landa or TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There you go, Jen. Thank you, Jen. Joseph, your skateboarding rants. Where are they found?
You can watch my one video where I will immediately fall off. Here's my real opinion about swah, and then it'll be over. You can find all my stuff on my website, josephscrimshot.com. Links to all the film stuff I'm working on and to my weekly blog letter, Finish Your Monsters, all on josephscrimshot.com.
There you go. That's it. So for all the pretty faces in Star Wars, we'll see you next week here on ForceCenter.